go again.
It's time. Time for another episode of those shit-talking guys. Full of opinions on games, music, cultures, and other random shit. All while humiliating each other. This is Generation Flip. Don't forget, make sure to drop a like and subscribe. And now, wrapping it up, here's your hosts.
What's going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in. We got another day, another new member, a new guest here, special guest from West Point himself. But first, let me introduce you to my co-host from San Jose, Mr. Big Brown.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Good show today. Give us some good insight. We got a gentleman out of the Central Valley, grew up, got into West Point, did his thing, 82nd Airborne, field artillery. Now he's in the real world, doing some real work, making things happen, baby. So we're excited. This is Dustin Castillo.
How's it going, guys?
Let's welcome Dustin to the show. Dustin, I heard a lot about you by Mr. Brown over here. Good stuff, a lot of good stuff, my man. You're a young man. Look at you, man. You young kid. I wasn't picturing a young kid like that in the West Point. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, you look like a young kid. What are you? About 35?
30. Just turned 30.
Wow, look at that. 30 years old.
Yeah, just turned 30.
Wow,
yep.
Wow. So let's Dustin. So you're from the West Point. You're a West Point graduate, right?
Correct.
30 years old. So let's get into starting where you started out from. I mean, you started in what year did you go in?
So I went into West Point in 2010, and actually I was accepted into the Prep Academy first. So it's kind of like a 1 year in between program entering the actual full academy. It's their Prep Academy. So I did that in 2010 in New Jersey at Fort Monmouth, which is actually closed now. That Prep Academy is now on site at West Point Military Academy. So it's all in the same facility now. So it's like just down the road. And so then from there, and then I bumped over in 2010 is when I wound up going into West Point. And I graduated in 2015.
2015, you graduated in 2015?
2014.
Oh, 2014. Oh, wow, man. That was just around the corner. You've been...
Correct.
Yeah. So how... Well, first of all, I know I have tons of questions to ask, and I'm sure when the viewers subscribers and the viewers start hitting, they'll probably hit the chat. And I know you're strapped for time here. So let me ask you a question. One, what made you decide to join the military at West Point?
Yeah, it's a great question. So at the time, it was in 2009. It was during the big housing market crash. As most people know, in California, got hit pretty hard with it. And Big Brown here, my pops, was in the housing market. He was a mortgage broker, real estate lending, and then my mother was in notary. So a bit of tough times on the family. So one of the biggest things that I was looking to try to do was to get a full ride scholarship. I was the top of the class president. Very much involved. I lettered in almost every single sport. And, I was just getting partial scholarships here and there, and nothing really full ride scholarships like I was, looking for. And at the time, I was playing junior Olympic water polo, and one of our, assistant coaches, kind of like, was a gentleman named Mr. Ekman, which he was he was a naval officer, naval commander. And so he asked me, where I thought about the service. Hey, would you ever think about serving? And kind of ignorantly, and I didn't know much about the service. And I was like, I feel like that's a place for people who don't really have options. You kind of go there. I'm a kid, top of the class. I'm going to get into San Diego State. Most of the universities will pick me up. And he's like, no, there's an academy for school, accredited school, Bachelor of Science, and you can go get a full ride with a $500,000 scholarship.
Damn.
That caught my attention. I was like, all right, well, how does this work? And he's like, well, it's kind of a lengthy process. It's a free application, but it's going to take you some time. So I was like, all right, if it's free, then let's shoot for it. It doesn't hurt. It's just my sweat equity, basically.
Right.
So I started applying. Realized it was a very lengthy process, and you have to basically apply in order to apply. So you've got to first receive a congressional nomination from either a senator or a House representative from your district. They can only pick one person from their district. So you're competing against everybody in your district. And so they get one slot for the Naval Academy, for Air Force, West Point, and the Coast Guard Academy. So at the time, when I was applying to the Mr. Jim Costa's office, it's like you would apply to a college. You've got extracurriculars, you've got resumes, you do like an in-person interview, and then you've got, you submit your grades, you got letters of recommendations, you do a whole full packet under him, and then his team then makes a decision. I went through the interview process, and they wind up nominating me for actually both academies. Knowing that I would only go to one, they gave me the option they nominated me for both the Naval Academy and West Point, which was an awesome thing. So that bettered my odds.
Right.
And so forever thankful for Mr. Jim Costa for giving me the opportunity. And then once that happened, I basically got my ticket to apply to the school. So once I got my congressional nomination, they're like, okay, awesome. Now you can officially apply. So then the process began all over again. It's extracurriculars. It's a lot of essay writing. You got to take a physical test. You got to take a fitness test. They're all administered. You got to do eye tests. So they do a full body inspection and everything. And then they do, pretty sure that's about it in terms of it. I mean, like I said, it's full encompassing piece. If everything, they want to know about everything, your background, personal statements. They want to know, whatever you're involved in, all the clubs you're a part of, sports that you've lettered in, and all of those things. And so, once that happens, then they go to the committee, and then they, make their decisions. And then, I wind up getting word back that I was accepted into the Prep Academy first. And then, so the Prep Academy, I went there for the year. And the Prep Academy is designed for a lot of athletes and then individuals kind of on the cusp in terms of academics. So that was the first place where, I thought I was a very smart kid when I was in high school. I was top of the letter. I never got any C's, very few B's. But then when I went and was applying and realized the majority of the kids that went to that school or that applied were all 4.0 students. Nobody got anything less. At the time that I applied, Forbes rated West Point as the #1 public school in America, and we had the cover that year. Yeah. So it was the highest. It was the highest application rate that I've ever seen, and so because of that, it was extremely tough to get in. And so, the year that I went in was kind of a tougher year, basically.
Right.
And so then I wound up going. I received the scholarship. Comes up to like $400 and like $79,000 scholarship, I think is what it is. So received the scholarship, wound up going to the academy, but ultimately kind of narrowing it down to what we talked about. I was really trying to find a way in order to, prevent my parents, from being in an even worse position. I knew that my parents both worked hard and they were going to figure out a way to pay for college for me. But I felt that I needed to figure out a way to do this on my own and figure out some way and capitalize on some of the things I worked hard on before. And this presented the best opportunity for me. And so I wound up getting in and best decision I ever made in my life.
Okay. Well, fair enough. I mean, interesting turn. That's an interesting, really amazing turn. I mean, I'm not, I'm not going to say I'm a dumbass, but I am a dumbass compared to that. You know what I mean? But I'm pretty bright in my own way, I guess you can say. But that's really impressive to do all that. And, you pretty much have you probably have a good IQ, because when you go into West Point, from what I heard, you're pretty much signing up as an officer, right?
Correct. Yep. You sign up as an officer. When you graduate as a second lieutenant.
Okay. So, and then you can move yourself up. You can work your
Correct.
way up,
Yep.
right?
Yeah. So second lieutenant, and then you become a first lieutenant, and then as a captain. And I received captain when I wind up getting out.
So, when you went, okay. All right.
So yeah, so by the time I got out, I was a captain.
Nice. So let me read this real quick. I pulled up something over here so that in case anybody's tuning in later down the road. So you are part of the 82nd Airborne Division. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So
that's correct. Yeah.
So I'm going to read this right here. It says the 82nd Airborne Division is an airborne infantry division of the United States Army specializes in parachute assaults, operations into denied areas, okay, with a U.S. Department of Defense. It is the requirements to respond to a crisis contingencies anywhere in the world within 18 hours. So
Correct.
that is impressive. That's like Navy shit,
Correct.
Navy SEAL shit. You know what I'm saying?
Cool.
That's pretty much, that's for me in my eyes, badass. Okay, that's badass shit, because if you're gonna get a call, you're on call, whatever, 24/7, obviously. But you get a call from freaking your higher up saying, "Hey, get ready. We're flying you in. You have 18 hours to complete this mission." You're flying in across the world, you know, dropping in somewhere across the world. And you have to be ready in a drop of a dime, right?
Correct. Yeah, you have a go bag ready to go. So you're kind of it's called GRF, Global Reaction Force, or QRF, Quick Reaction Force. You kind of move into stages, you know. So each unit kind of moves between like a 72, 18, and 24-hour windows, and then you kind of cycle through. So you know, everybody gets that, you know, short standby period. So the most recent one is in Kabul, right? That the whole incident that went out there. So that was 82nd. 82nd was one of the first units that were out there, which is my units. You know, a lot of my guys were there and responded to it, you know, within that 24-hour notice. They got the call and they pushed out there. They went out there, and then shortly after, the Marines were out there as well. I know Ranger Band and a couple of SF guys that were out there as well too. They were kind of, you know, smaller units, but the main occupying force was the 82nd, which was guys directly from my unit that were there.
Nice. So I'm sure there's probably, okay, let me ask you this without getting yourself into trouble. So have you done, and you can just reply yes or no, or if you want to go in detail, that's fine. Have you done secret ops?
No.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
Okay. All right. So, but you have done, you have been on missions before, I'm sure.
Yeah, So I mean, there are things that we know, right? Like I've got TS clearance and stuff like that. So like there are things that we know when we do. But in terms of like, you know, again, I'm out of the service now, right? So nothing that I say is on behalf of the Army. These are all opinions of myself, right? These are not in reflection of the Army, and make sure these things are said. But yeah, I mean, you know, the term of like secret stuff like that, I mean, that's more of the special operations community. So we are not a part, 82nd is not a part of the special operations community. We're still conventional Army. We work, you know, with special operations units, especially overseas operations. Most countries that have, you know, paramilitary, which guys are jumping out of planes, is considered their special operations. So we do get to intermingle with a lot of the other, you know, I've worked with the British SAS. We've done jumps with the Netherlands Special Forces, Spanish, you know, Belgium, you know, Polish. A lot of joint operations that you do overseas, which is really, really cool jumps that we'll do with those guys. And so they are considered, you know, special operation guys. But in terms of, you know, here stateside, we are not following the realm of special operations. Special operation guys are the Navy SEALs, Rangers, Green Berets, and Delta Force.
Okay.
Those guys following Jason. And then the Marines have MARSOC, which is pretty new. And those guys are all under the JSOC, Joint Special Operations Command.
So let me ask you this. Parachuting, man. You've done that, and I'm sure.
Yes, yeah.
That's scary, huh? When you first did it, was it scary?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was scared every single time. You would never know because
was your officer right there at the door saying, "Hey, Get the fuck out! Pushes you out.
Yeah, no, if you watch game film on me ever, it looked like I was, cool as a cucumber, and you never really want to show fear, especially in front of your soldiers, right? You always want to exude a level of confidence. The last thing you want to do is, be working alongside, your captain or your commander, and the guy's terrified and sweating and freaking out, right? You always want to make sure you exude a level of confidence. So one of the sayings that we always say is suffer in silence, right? And so, you never really want to show those things. But no, 100%. I was terrified 95% of the time because it was a game, and I wasn't so terrified about dying. It was more about getting hurt. It's a game of Russian roulette. You jump enough, you're going to get hurt. Anybody that's in that community knows, man, you get, I don't think I had a single jump where someone didn't get hurt. I mean, legs get broken. It's just, my first jump with the unit, someone died. And so, it's just, it's a game that you play that if you play long enough, it's going to bite you. And so that was more of the fear, was that, I didn't want to break an ankle. I don't want to snap a knee, which was all very common. I mean, these things happen every single jump. Someone was getting tangled. You just have so much chaos in the sky. It's not like what you see in movies where you've got 3 to 4 seconds between jumps. Like, everybody's jumping on like a half a second in intervals. And so on both sides of the aircraft. And so you've got, 50 people in the sky that you've got, you're only free falling for more than like 6 seconds. And then your chute is opening, and then you're directing traffic with a slow chute, right? That, it's just chaos up there. And so you play the game enough, and it gets pretty scary. And, you just want to hit the ground and be okay.
Right.
That's really what it comes down to.
That's intense. I do have family members in the military in different branches. I have a niece. She was active in the Marines. She just
Awesome.
recently retired out of the Marines. I think she did four years and got out.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have another niece. Her sister is a officer in the Navy, and she was one of the first. I don't know if I could say this, but she was basically one of the. It's nothing new. She was one of the first to be deported back out there just recently. So with that crisis going on over there in Afghanistan, so she was one of the first. She is a military officer. I'm sorry, not the Navy, in the Air Force. She's in the Air Force. I'm sorry, my bad.
Good. Yeah, that's awesome. Being a female in the service is no joke. It's tough. It's a tough thing. So much respect to all the female officers and enlisted. It's a tough place. Yeah. It's definitely not easy.
Yeah, I saw her a couple of months before she left. I chatted with her, and I knew she was going somewhere. I knew she was leaving for deployment, but she couldn't tell me where. But I already knew,
Correct.
all the shit that's going on over there. You know what I mean? So we do have Valentina, who's commenting on the chat right now. She's saying, for you, how many years did you have to go through school? So,
I went through 4 years. 4 years at the academy, and got a bachelor's of science, and then graduated from there.
Okay. So right out of high school, straight to West Point.
Correct. Yeah, straight to. Yep. From long hair to buzz shaved head, and whole different world.
So you're married now and have children of your own, or no?
No, I'm just single. Just a single 30-year-old living in Los Angeles, California.
Hit the generation flip right here, baby. Got a single officer right here. Nice, handsome guy. What are you doing nowadays? What do you do now?
So I'm CEO of a tech company. We're a custom software development company here out of Los Angeles, California. So I came on board about 2 years ago. About a year and some change in. I was asked to be the CEO, and I moved into CEO position probably about a month before COVID hit. It's kind of when I took the reins. So it's been good though.
So business is booming even though COVID has hit, because Brown and I, we've hit on a couple of episodes about COVID, how different aspects, COVID is out there. Just we touch bases on different, careers, different jobs, that different people that it affect, their companies, themselves, their families. You know what I mean? So has it affected your job?
So it's interesting. It's been in our benefit. It really has. Most tech companies, as you kind of look across the board, have skyrocketed during COVID, which God's plan, God's timing, whatever you want to call it, lucked out. As I took kind of lead of kind of some uncharted waters, we were really uncertain in terms of what this was going to be for us. Was this going to shut down everybody? And if business and the economy is not growing, people aren't going to be spending money. But it turned out to be the other way. I think people learned to really favor technology and understand that, if you can put the money in the right locations in terms of tech, it can really scale your business with minimizing people and personnel. Because probably one of the most expensive things you can have in a company is employees. I mean, they're expensive. To employ an individual throughout a whole year and to do that year in year out is an expensive thing. But if you can apply some tech, you can eliminate some jobs, positions, and roles, and really scale your company at a more efficient way.
Right.
And I think a lot of people started to really realize that you're getting companies now that are developing mobile app companies and tech-based companies that are getting evaluations that are through the roof, and they've got like 20 employees. I mean, there are people that are selling platforms like for example, Honey. Right, that entire company is remote. Right, that company is a couple $100 million company. And they've never even met in person in the same room before. And so,
it's all remote.
And then you see, and then you see companies like Facebook and Google. They haven't had people show up to the office in over a year and a half, right? So the way I look at it is, we're remote right now too, but there's no foreseeable future of coming back to an office because if Google and Facebook can do it and they've got hundreds and thousands of employees, there's no reason a little Coreware group of just under 50. That we can't maintain that status because there's overhead expense, associated with the building, things like that. That when it comes to tech, the only thing an office provides is snacks and lights. That's it. Anything else is we can work from anywhere.
Right. That's true. Bunch of laptops, tablets, phones.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, we've got some leadership challenges where obviously it's not smooth sailing across the board. I think that we do take a hit when it comes to sales and marketing, because I think those are two collaborative departments that require, that unit cohesion. But, we're learning to adapt and as leaders, we're coming together to figure out a better way of doing things. But, for the rest of our industry, company, our engineers, they work better. They work better autonomously. So they're more introverted, and it makes sense for them.
Right. So you jumped into that, and it's running good. It's working good for you. It's
absolutely. Now the company's doing extremely well. We're probably, we probably had our biggest month in the company history. The company's around about 8 years now. Just last month was our biggest month ever, and then we're probably operating somewhere near 3 to 4x now what they've ever done. So we're in a very good position.
Let me ask you a question. So it's back to the 82nd Airborne Division. How are the working hours there?
Yeah, there's no such thing. You just work. You just work. I mean, there are times where you just lay your head down and then you're back up and you're back at the office. I mean, it's tough on a family. In my opinion, that was one of the main reasons why I wanted to get out, is because at some point I want to start a family. But for example, when I first got to the unit, I showed up on a Friday. And they were going for a month of training at JRTC over in Louisiana. I showed up on Friday. They said, pack your bags. You're leaving Monday morning. Make sure you get everything stitched up with your logos and everything on there, and have the packing list ready to go. And I hadn't even unpacked my house yet. And they were like, here, like, get ready to rock. And, Friday I'm going, I check in, I got airborne refresher on Monday, which makes you have to do one jump with the unit to make sure that you know what you're doing. So I did one quick jump with them. Next thing you know, I'm on a bus, 16-hour drive over to Fort Polk, Louisiana, to go through like a pre-deployment training exercise for a month straight.
Just to prep you up, huh?
And usually the typical glide path is you right when you do that, right when you're done, you go right into your deployment. So when you get in there, it's a full simulated deployment. So everything you do once you go into the box is what they call it. It's full game on. You don't leave your weapon with you. I mean, your weapon's always with you at all times. Like it's game on, like full deployment style. Nothing outside of that is, this weird thing of like, are we playing now or not? Always game on. And so
we
did that.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. We got Randy over here, a guy I do know who's in fact a Marine veteran here himself. He asked, to go to the West Point, do you have to go through a recruiter? So I think
negative. Yeah, so it's a negative. So the recruiter is not the same route. So the recruiter is typically the route for like an enlisted individual that you would go through that route. You certainly can get information about West Point through the recruiter. Most of those guys, they won't have too much information, but it's through. Luckily, I had someone specifically guide me, Mr. Ekman. He helped me kind of say, hey, go on the website and kind of check it out. And unlike West Point, the Naval Academy websites, it'll have like admissions, and it'll tell you like your admissions process. And there are people out there who their sole purpose is to help you get through the application process. And so you go through that, and they'll walk you through step by step of how to get through the whole process. But the entire process itself takes, I want to say like 3 or 4 months, because you got to schedule appointments with West Point's approved doctor list, and they've got a pool all over the country of approved individuals who will go through and take your, a full medical exam, a full physical, and do all of those things. And you got to get all these things done by a specific timeline, which they put in place. And so, a lot of people, they start their application like mid-junior year. Like I was on the very last, like I remember applying, and I was like turning my packet in on the very last day that they were accepting packets, and there were kids who already got accepted. And so like it's no joke. The sooner you can get on that glide path, the better your odds will be. But like I said, God's plan or whatever it was, I was barely getting in the door at the very end, and there was already guys getting through the system like, hey, you're good, you're a green light, you're accepted. And so the best would be on their website, like West Point's website and Naval Academy, and the academies to put, they've got an admissions tab, and you can reach out that way, and then you can start your process.
Yeah, I looked at the West Point's website yesterday just to review some stuff for this day. But you said that you're chosen by the governor, or?
Yeah, so your state representative. So you have a House representative or your senator that you'll both apply to. So the two that I applied to was Mr. Jim Costa and Diana Feinstein. And then there's another route. If you've had a graduate in your direct family, you can ask for a presidential nomination, and the presidential nomination is an unlimited amount. They can give you as many nominations as possible. So there's a lot of like legacy West Pointers who their parents both went. They've got a bit of a different route that they can take, where they'll get that nomination. It's not a for sure in at all by any means. It just gives you a ticket to apply, basically. And so there's that route too.
Right, all the work is up to you, but that makes sense. You just your generation after generation. If I have a son, I'm in West Point. Bam, he's in West Point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's up to him to do the job, the work. Yeah, but still, you still got to get get approved by your senator, right?
Cool. So you get your senator or your House representative. Once you get up, they pick you and nominate you. Then you get your ticket, and then you apply to the school. And then the school's board, they have a whole admissions team, and then they go through a very thorough breakdown of. They give you basically like a score, and they calibrate you based on all the applications that come in. So I believe it was like right around like 100,000 applications that went in during my year, and 1,300 get picked.
Yep.
So that's freaking awesome, man, to be picked by just a thin line. You know what I mean? All those people.
Yeah, I was gonna. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I seen a special program on that, and I can't believe it was on. I think it was on Frontline, and they showed the committee, which is probably 14 generals sitting at a table, and then they have a red and a blue or red and green marker, and each individual that comes through gets scored, like Dustin said, and at the time they'll go through that individual's file. Everybody listens, they score it out, and then I guess the generals will put green or red, whether they want them or they don't. And it's a huge acceptance. It's a big deal, right? It just goes through. And like Dustin said, if you get to some that are kind of, but they really like what they've seen, then they get chosen to go to the prep academy.
Right.
But I believe it's a front line. It's a great show on how to get in and how they get in.
So these guys are actually looking at your resume. They're going through it.
Yeah,
everything. All your tryouts and all that. You know what I mean? All the wow. That's,
yeah, you even send in a headshot. There's like they look at everything. There's not like, hey, just looking at names. No, you send in a headshot too. Wow. They check everything, and they make sure that that the people that get accepted, right? They want to make sure there's an equal balance kind of across the board too. So Latin Americans, African Americans, Asian community, everybody gets represented too. So that's a big thing that is unlike most institutions, but it's an important part of the process, especially in the military, is having that representation of all cultures present. Because when you go and lead the Sons and Daughters of America, right, it's a diverse culture, right? It isn't just primarily white. Like, it's a diverse culture, because the leaders and people you're going to be leading are diverse. And so it's a very, very important thing. So, like my friends and the people that are my brothers and sisters at the academy, I mean, we've got everything, African American, Asian, Black, white, Hispanic, everybody, from states all over the U.S., which is a beautiful thing. And so it's a great mixed community that in my opinion, makes our armed forces even stronger.
Yeah. So we've gone briefly over the interview process. That's pretty much your interview process, right? You got to go through all that. Okay. So also another question I have down here is how often do raises occur at the 82nd Airborne Division, or if there is any raises?
Yeah, so the raises usually are basically time in service. So they're pretty much like clockwork. So as long as you stayed in X amount of time, you'll go up for promotion. And then once you go up for promotion, they're going to review your packet. And as long as you haven't done anything, detrimental to your career, like, you're like a DUI or something like that, that's, it's pretty much a black eye. You're pretty much done. You're probably not going to get promoted. Odds are you're probably going to get kicked out of the Army as well. But as long as you're doing what you're supposed to do, you're physically and mentally fit, you're fine, you move forward, you'll pretty much hit your marks. Everybody kind of moves on that. Where it gets more political, at least on the officer side, is when you start getting past major, the rank of major, lieutenant colonel, then it becomes very, very much more political and very, it gets tough there, very tough.
So on that note, how intense is the training?
So the training is phenomenal. Obviously when I first went to the academy, I didn't know anything different. So it was hard for me to really compare, what training was like before. I mean, I was a typical California kid, long hair, dirt bike riding kid. So I had no idea. And so when I first went to the academy, I was like, man, this place is, we were just doing a lot. And at first, I was like, man, this is, I didn't have the best opinion of it. I'm like, oh, this isn't like, I thought this was like Call of Duty. We're going to be, fast roping out of planes and, doing a bunch of wild stuff. And it really wasn't like that initially. And then I got into the Army, and then I realized how efficient West Point was. That the training that we did was phenomenal. As I got to a position of leadership, where I realized how hard it is to simulate, combat operations and being able to do things, I understood why things were the way they were. And so it was kind of the progression of understanding what it's like to be a leader and how to develop training. And so at the earlier stages, it's kind of like, And then as I look back on it, we had phenomenal training. Unbelievable. I mean, we were probably one of the first groups to begin doing point operation training where the traditional style of warfare was shifting. And so after, from 2001 to 2010, we were basically rewriting doctrine, very much, changing the way that we were doing things fundamentally. And so because of that, right, we have to get the leaders on board, right? So West Point makes up, I want to say, like 60% of the officers every single year. So we make up a large portion. So a lot of what they were wanting Big Army to move into, they needed to make sure that we knew what we were doing. So we were doing a lot of room clearing, close quarters combat training. We were clearing rooms. We were doing that cool guys. It was phenomenal training that we got to do, and it was very, very unique. The traditional way of warfare that we originally were doing, from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and early 90s, was basically getting phased out. And we were fighting, conventional forces, right? But the Taliban and Al Qaeda, they weren't wearing uniforms. Right? It was very different style of tactics. We were doing counterinsurgency operations now, so things were shifting, and so we had to become not so much doctrinalized, but more principled. So when it came to like clearing a room, you had principles of how to clear a room, but there are multiple ways of skinning the cat. Right? You can do it in multiple different ways and still be okay. And so what that did was it encouraged a thinking soldier. People had to be really thinking about what they were doing rather than just executing just blatant orders, just kind of moving blindly. So, in my opinion, it made us become better soldiers as we were, actively thinking about multiple ways of doing things. And so, the training that we had was phenomenal. I mean, we had Green Berets, we had Delta operators that would come in and train us, like unbelievable amount of training that I received at the academy that, most people don't ever get to experience. We had majors and generals that were, Delta Force guys, Green Beret operations, got tons of years of experience who are training us one-on-one, and not only that, but our instructors too. A lot of the instructors that we had were Delta Force, Green Beret guys who were just, absolute heroes. I mean, books have been written about them. I have plenty of instructors, Major Worthen, his whole family, just amazing individuals. He was actually the platoon leader of Tillman, and so at the Ranger Bat. And so these guys were just phenomenal individuals who were leading us and training us, the future soldiers. And so as I got older and realized, the amount of time and effort that got put into us in our training, I realized how special of a place that was, and how unlike training I would ever receive was like that at that time.
So let me ask you something. Because of technologies improving, every year, technology is improving. And you figure they're probably sending more robots into situations, tough situations, versus sending a group of guys into a room. How do you feel about that? If that was to happen, how would you feel about that? I mean, it obviously would save lives. You know what I'm saying? With our troops, of course, but we don't know how reliable the robot would be, or you know what I'm saying. So, how do you feel on that? Theory.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, these are the opinions of myself. None of the Army or any reflection of those things, right? And so, in my opinion, anytime that we can save, and prevent a death of a soldier, I'm all for it, right? But I'm also a realist, and I understand that, the way that you maintain territory is boots on the ground. It's plain and simple, right? We do when we occupy space and we want to take over, a territory or a location, or, 82nd known for is, airfield seizures, right? You can't do that with it's people, right? You occupy territory with boots on the ground, and I don't think that will ever change. I think that the robot aspect is always be a tool, right? I think you hear rumors about exoskeleton and things like that, where soldiers can put those things on, so it prevents muscle fatigue and things like that. I think those are great concepts, great ideas. Anytime that you can longer, farther, faster, and move, that's a great thing. I think it advances our army. But in terms of it just being strictly machine based and robot, in my opinion, I just don't see that actually happening. Could be wrong. Like I said, I don't know, but history tells us that the way you occupy space and territory is with boots on the ground. It's just never going to fail. You need people, you need thinking individuals. There are certain things that just aren't black and white. That a human being is going to be able to, make the best decision on some of those things.
So you pretty much covered a lot of these questions that I have listed here. Some of them we already went through. They asked the questions in a different manner, but it's almost as similar to the questions that we already addressed. But Dustin, first of all, I'd like to thank you for your services. You did serve, and thank you for your services. I appreciate that very much, and I'm sure a lot of other people that support the troops and stuff in every way. So I really appreciate that. So I applaud you for that, buddy. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you for your support. I appreciate
you got
it.
questions?
Oh, well, one of the things that that I always found interesting is that a large amount go into every year. So how big was your class, Dustin, when it went in?
So when it went in, I think it was like 1,300. It was one of the largest classes at the time that West Point had almost ever seen at that time. I think it got a little bit bigger the following year, but it was like 1,300. I think is when we walked in at 1,330 or something like that.
Yeah. So here's the interesting thing, Flip. Just because you get in, and I know this because I've talked with Dustin. If you fail into going into the last 2 years. Is that correct, Dustin? You're still responsible for the money that you were, given to graduate.
Yeah. So after your second year, so once you hit your second year, and you go to your class, I think it's like the second day is what it is, or something like that. But you have like an official signing day, basically. But anything after that, you're locked in. So you can basically go to West Point for the first year for free and see if you like this thing or not. It's super rare. Like there's one or you're gonna know real quick. It's gonna punch you in the face over the summertime whether this life is for you or not. But some guys will go through a full year and then say, you know what, this ain't for me, and they can get out and it's no big deal. But if you sign on the dotted line, say you're a green light, that means you signed over the next let's see, 3, 4. You signed over the next 8 years of your life, and so you know exactly what you're gonna be doing from moving forward. So Uncle Sam's gonna get his money. So there's no question about it. So one way or the other, if you sign past that dotted line, Uncle Sam's gonna get his money out of you because you're expensive. you're an expensive piece of machinery. I mean, you're $500,000 that they said we are gonna train and develop you as a future leader in this army. And so which I think rightfully so. I mean, I think that in my opinion, it should that signing should happen a lot sooner. I mean, it's rare that guys are still making a decision then. I think I had like one friend that said no thanks and kind of walked away, and he was more of an acquaintance other than that. But for the most part, you're gonna get punched in the face in the summertime when you're training, and you're gonna know if this is your lifestyle or not, and you're gonna know a lot sooner than a year later. So
yeah, definitely,
no doubt. So even with that being said, also there's a lot of guys that don't graduate either, right? So there's a big percentage that go the full time, and they don't even graduate. They don't make it.
They're really strict about that.
You get people that so like Navy SEALs, you got to ring the bell. If you can't hack it, ring the bell, and that's it. Do you have something like that in West Point?
So no, nothing like that. There's what you call like the transient barracks, which is like when you're transitioning out. And so you basically like move all of your stuff and like these barracks that are just like transient. It's literally what it is. It means you're on your way out. And that's where people are like, you find people that are in that area. You're like, where you're going. Your next stop is a bus ticket, and you're getting out of here. Wow. And so that's usually where that happens. But yeah, that's
so
where
So if you feel at any point that you can't hack it, what do you do?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's.
I mean, I'm sure you don't want to be a punk bitch. You know what I mean? You want to. You're there for the first reason you're there is to kick ass, to show what you can do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then some. Yeah. You're not there just to flake out. You're there to kick ass. So
it's. Mm-hmm. Go ahead. Sorry.
So I mean, you're there to just do what to be all you can be, to just. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, get it out there. But if you've come to an obstacle or some point in time while you're doing the training and all that, and you figure out, hey, I can't take this, getting up 2 a.m. doing runs and 2 a.m, 3 a.m, I can't do this shit, anymore. Does that do you have colleagues or people under you that done this? I'm sure, right?
Yeah. I mean, some people do it for a lot of different reasons, right? Some people do it to impress family, their legacy kids, right? And their intentions aren't necessarily just there yet, right? And they're just like, hey, I didn't even want to do this. My parents forced me to, right? Like that happens too. I've heard that many a times. The quitting aspect of things is, everybody goes through that mode. I went through that time. Everybody has that time where you're just like, this ain't for me. I mean, because that's a normal human tendency, right? Like, how are you supposed to know if you're going to be good at these things? There's nothing in your childhood that says, hey, this translates to you holding a gun and staying up for 24 hours straight and rucking around the mountain with, 40, 50 pounds in your back. Like, there's nothing like that. Like, there's nothing that you can do unless you've got, like, a Green Beret, Delta, or Navy SEAL dad who's torturing you. But, like, you just don't know, what your metal is tested until your metal is tested. And so, for some people, this is that time where it gets tested, right? And so, the good thing about the academy is that, everybody's going through the suck together. So, who are you going to complain to, right? Like, I'm going to sit there, man, my life is tough. I got to carry all this weight. And you look to your left and right, and look who's carrying that same weight. It's your battle buddies. They're doing the same thing with you. Yeah. And so, I've always liked that group think where I'm like, look, I can't quit because no one else is quitting. So if they ain't quitting, I'm not quitting. Right. I'm gonna wait till somebody quits, and then I'll think about it. And you fight your mental battles all day. For me, it was like, and no disrespect to females, but I was like, look, if she's out there getting it, I'm gonna be getting it too. Like, there's no way I'm gonna quit before she gets. And same thing with guys. I'm like, I'm bigger, I'm stronger than that guy. I'm mentally stronger than him. So if he's still up, I'm still up. Right. And you just you find your little
so it's weird a very competitive thing between you guys then, right?
Oh man, it's that whole school is competitive. I mean, that's what drives that place. I mean, it is madness. It's competitive, but also very, very team oriented. Right, like everybody's got their strengths and weaknesses. That school will expose you. Everybody gets exposed. There are a couple freaking natures. Don't get me wrong. I've had a couple friends that I'm like, dude, they're superstars. Captain of the football team, 4.0 student, like just physical freaks. Like, and I'm just like, dude, where do they make you? Like, you're just like a complete anomaly. Like, those guys are just, they're a whole nother caliber. Like, those guys are the guys that are going Delta operations. They are just elite caliber guys, elite, right, and they're just unbelievable. But they get tested too. Everybody gets tested in that school. And for me, it was academics. When it came to military and physical, I was top of the class. I was a 4.0 student when it came to military grades. Like, I crushed that. I did that extremely well. Where I got beat up was in the academics. And one of my battle buddies, a guy named Duke G, my man, love him to death. But when it came to the military stuff, man, he was ate up. Some of those things that we'll say is like, he's a soup sandwich. My man was all over the place. And I was very good at military. I knew how to take directions, and I could do it really well from, folding bed corners, shining shoes, grunt work stuff. I'm all for it. And I could do it really well. And so I took care of him on that front. And I'm like, follow my lead. I'm going to get you through this. And I remember one time we were in this barracks and bunks together. And he's like, I'm going to take care of you one day. I know it, because I know it's just not right now. And I know we're getting tore up, because he was my battle buddy. And so anytime he messed up, I messed up. And so, we would get tore up pretty good. I'm like, just follow my lead, dude. I'm going to get you through this. He's like, I got you. And sure enough, academic season starts, right? And it's during the school year, it's full-time school. You know, you're doing very little military stuff. It's full-time school. And, you know, he was brilliant. I mean, he was a physics brilliant. Physics is one of the most difficult, you know, science department at the academy was no joke. I mean, we're tier 1 school. I mean, we're at the level of MIT, Harvard, all the big top schools. We're real deal. And it was tough for me. Oh, man, I sit in the front row. I take every note, and I would sit there. I'm like, this is a foreign language to me. I was like, this is absolutely crazy. I just don't get this. And every time I need to help, Duke G helped me. My man helped me. He's like, look, whatever you need, I got you. And it didn't matter if it was midnight, 5 a.m., didn't make a difference. He was there for me. He put on study sessions for me. He had like brought in a bunch of kids, but you do that. You take care of each other. And so that's like the prime example of where the school is competitive, but it also is very much it's teamwork makes the dream work. I mean, it's 100%. It's the saying is you cooperate to graduate. That's what it is. If you learn to work together, you will get through that school. And because of that, right, he helped me out. I remember getting up in the morning at like 5 a.m. in the middle of the school year to help a friend of mine who she couldn't swim. I was a phenomenal swimmer. I was a junior Olympic swimmer. So I would train her before school would start every single day, because if you didn't pass the swimmer survival course, you weren't going to graduate. They're very strict on it. And so I would get up in the middle of my school year, 5 a.m., her and I are heading to the pool, and I'm training her, getting her to where so she could pass. She failed the course twice. She had one last chance, and she was going to get kicked out of the school. I helped her pass this thing, and she was crying. It was like the coolest moment I'd ever seen, but she was terrified of the water. She was an inner city girl who, you know, never swam growing up. But that's what she did. And I didn't expect praise for it or nothing. It's just what you did. Right? You took care of each other. You made sure that you knew that when times were weak, you could find somebody to have, you know, lean on, and they were going to get you through it. And then where you can offer help, you do that without a question. Right. And that's how that school really operated, which was a very unique thing that, you know, is very uncommon. But like I said, that type of stuff went on every single day at that school.
So what do we got?
And in the army, and it moved. You know, that stuff moves into the army, and that's, you know, across armed forces to begin with. Right. That cooperate to graduate. That parallels through everything that you do, and it resonates. Team first, for sure.
Right. Yeah. Everything's that brotherhood, sisterhood type of deal.
Oh,
you know?
No doubt.
You guys pat each other in the back, man, and pull each other up, and that's what it's all about, man. That's where it works. Yeah. I got Art Pole, I believe.
Art Pole.
Right?
Yeah, he wanted to thank you for your service, Dustin. He wanted to thank you. And then even Trevor, you know, retired man, he looks like and sounds like a kid.
Awesome.
He's a veteran. He's a veteran.
I'm not retired. I did my 6 years and then wound up getting out. And so, retired. But yeah, thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate the support. Thank you.
Combat veteran, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Combat veteran. And so, and your officer, commander, right?
I was an executive officer as an Army captain when I wound up getting out.
Wow.
West Point also has it's the gray line, right? And then you guys have, what is your motto? Like, don't lie, don't steal, don't cheat. There's something.
Yeah, I mean, that's our cadet honor code. Cadet will not lie, cheat, or steal, nor tolerate those who do. And that's an honor code that we live by, you know, while at the academy, and that kind of goes through, you know, all facets of life. But it started at the academy, that honor code concept.
Nice. And
if I'm correct, at the time when you were in, didn't somebody get pushed out for lying or cheating?
Yeah. No, so we have our internal governing system that can honor a honor committee, basically a whole court system where, you know, your jury is of your peers. And so if anybody's brought up on honor, right, you got to go to court. It's based off of a jury of your peers. And like throughout like the time there, so if someone believes that you're plagiarizing or you've been brought up on honor, you have to go to court by your peers, and they will decide your fate. And you know, it's not uncommon. You get, you know, if you're cheating on a test or you get caught for cheating or plagiarizing, and it's an honor board, yeah, they're going to vote you out. You get kicked out based off of your peers. So we have a whole like internal judicial system to regulate each other.
Nice.
Wow.
Nice.
Wow.
So I want to get into a little bit of politics. I don't know if you have time.
Yeah, I do. I got
Okay.
time. Go ahead.
So Brown and I were discussing in prior clips about the pullout. So Brown, you wanna start the com?
No, yeah. Well, one of the things that really concerned me about that whole process of pulling out, they did catch a lot of people caught a lot of grief. The president caught grief. Is that your security attack dog? I think it is. You know, a lot of people were upset with the way they pulled out, and one of the concerns that I had, which is just a total my point of view, is I thought what better time to pull out than now, because of the fact of this is what they do and they've been doing for hundreds and thousands of years, you know, tribal run countries. But I also have to understand that we went in there to try to improve humanity and help people. So I always had a big concern of that with them pulling out, because of the fact of, you know, whether we pull out today or we pull out 20 years from now, in my mind, I feel these guys are going to go back to what they were taught, and that's just their culture, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously it's hindsight, right? Like, you know, we didn't know. I think a lot of it was, you know, we grossly, we're too confident. We overcompensated, and we thought really that the strength of the Afghan army was stronger than what they were, was one. And the second was, I think we underestimated the strength of the Taliban. Those guys have kind of been dormant for the last 20 years, right? And so it's easy to make, you know, a bit of an assessment now once, you know, the chaos has already ensued. My biggest concern on it was, I believe it was just a big shiny object for politicians and leaders. I think that everybody was such in a rush to say that they closed down the war, and they wanted to put that gold star on their leadership, you know, of accomplishments, that I think we overlooked a lot of things that, you know, should have exercised some more patience. You know, I really believe, I mean, I think on both sides, I think on Trump and Biden's side, everyone was so excited to try to hurry up and close this thing out, so that they could say, I was the president to end the war in Afghanistan, right? And we were so concerned with that, rather than making sure that we had a clear understanding of how we were going to execute, how the handover was going to take place, that I think we overlooked a lot of things. And in my opinion, that's where the real problem lied, rather than, you know, how we executed it. And the other thing is, you know, again, you know, these are all my opinions on a limited amount of resources and information, right? I'm no longer in and serving, so I don't know all the details, but, you know, I did feel that, you know, it was just a shiny object that leaders really wanted to put on their resume, kind of across the board, that, you know, I ended the war in Afghanistan, so they could use that as a, you know, a tool for years to come, that, you know, I was the guy who brought peace, and I brought our soldiers back home. It's like, we hadn't had a death in like 18 months over there. Right, so it was pretty stable. I mean, you know, it was okay. You know, keeping guys there wasn't that bad anymore at that point. And so again, you know, a tough situation, a really tough situation. Obviously, any life lost is terrible, right? That's not ideal, especially through some poor execution and some poor decision making. But in my opinion, you know, I think we should just stay there. Like any other place that we've ever taken over, or a country we've ever defeated in a war. You know, Germany, we started a new post there. It's just, you know, I think we should have just stayed there, and then just, you know, until we completely, you know, I don't know, phase them all out. I don't know, but I just think that we rushed it.
I gotta disagree on something on that, because this is what I believe, that if they're a third world country, they should be. I mean, okay, it's their country. Let them run it the way they want to run it. Yet, like in the past, I told Brown, I said, look, you know, unless other unhumane stuff that's going on, then we should be, not just us, our nation, but the world should get involved, because it's unhumane, whatever they're doing. But they're a third world country that needs to be led by themselves. They don't need, they need democracy. Every country should have their own democracy, but run by themselves. They don't need a third hand in there, like us being in there to guide them. They should already accomplish that. You know what I'm saying? They destroyed their country in what, 5 days? Like you said, 5 days they took over. You know, And it took us, what, 20 years or maybe more? Who knows? You know what I'm saying? So I mean, I feel that countries like that, like Somalia, I mean, they're their own country. We shouldn't interfere with their culture over there. We shouldn't interfere with it unless it's necessary.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, yeah, but here's the thing: are we when you say like let them run that country? Is it that and that's what the plan was? Let the Afghani army run that country, not the Taliban.
Not the
right.
Taliban,
So when we
right.
left, the Taliban came in, and now they got control of all of our old equipment, all of our old stuff. So now they pose a threat, all over again. Right. And so that's what the concerning part is. Right. And then there's the secondary effects of that. Right. Is that, the little girls out there. I mean, people don't realize they're going right back to where things. I mean, there's a whole generation of 20 years. There's a full generation of girls who have been able to go to school because of our presence, have been able to live a normal life because of our presence. And now that we're gone, that's all gone. Right, all of that stuff, all their protection is out the window now, and so we know this, and most service members know this, and so it's tough. It's a tough situation, and part of what we do is we protect the weak, right? And it's those little girls and that are out there who even if they're not American, they're still humans, right? They're still humans who are being led by that are being overruled by a Taliban army that are now more capable than they've ever been before. They've got more weapons than they've ever had before. They've got our MRAPs. They've got real deal equipment now. And so imagine the damage that they're going to do now. That's the part that is tough for people, especially for myself to swallow, is that, you thought they were bad before. They were bad before without equipment. Wait till you see what they got now. It's going to even be worse on these individuals out there. And that's tough to swallow. Because basically we're saying, look, like it's your country. Yes, it's your country, but we'd rather have it be in the hands of the Afghanistan army, right, and their democracy, not the Taliban, which is essentially what we're doing. Is we're walking away and handing it to them, and so it's tough. It really is a tough situation. I just think that we should just exercise some more patience in it.
Well, okay, I get that. I'm not saying, okay, so we all obviously know the Taliban's running the show over there now. They took over.
Yeah.
But now they have our equipment, like you said. Now it looks worse. And, well, I'm not going to say it looks worse, but it looks bad on us because we provided them the training. We provided them the equipment. We funded these people here. You know what I'm saying? We put troops there to help them get stabilized and do the job. So who do we point the fingers to? I mean, do we point the fingers at us, or do we point the fingers at whoever was running the show over there, who we left to run the show over there? Yeah. I mean, we left that person there in good faith. You know what I'm saying? That they would take over, they would do the right stuff, and they were taken over in 5 days. 5 fucking days.
Yeah, and I think again it goes back to a poor evaluation of strength. I think that we really thought that, and it would just could be just poor reporting, whatever it was. But what we thought that they had the capabilities for, they just didn't. They were just a very under strength army. They couldn't do what we believe that they could do. At least hold themselves. And so it's just kind of one of those things where. A series of bad reports.
You're
probably.
Saying that. So what do we do? Ideally, we send more troops out there, train some more of their people back all over again, and invest more time, more money, more troops. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, granted, Taliban is a threat. We all know that it's a threat. Here on our own soil is even a threat. I mean, I would hate to see another 9/11 happen over here. And I'm from New York.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying?
Correct, yeah.
So, first of all, I don't discriminate against anybody. I'm not racist. I don't discriminate against anybody. But I'm going to tell you, when it comes down to terrorist people, screw them. Blow them off the face of the world. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
But
Absolutely.
I do get it. We have small children out there. I just saw in the news today they had their Taliban is actually refusing the women out there for their education. See, that's wrong.
Oh, for sure.
That's
yeah,
wrong.
for sure. I mean, that's the PG version of what you're getting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough. It's a tough situation, and moving forward, what do we do? Man, that's even tougher, because what do we put troops back out there again? Ugh. I don't know what will kick this off. I don't know what will kick it off. I'm not too sure. I really don't know.
What always bothered me a little bit too is, we invest so much money in the UN. Why isn't the UN in there? United Nations should be in there, but I know they're like a flag football team.
Yeah,
they're not. But I mean, everybody funds these guys, and they should be in there helping or doing something. But you never hear the UN. You never hear that.
Well, they were. I mean, there were a lot of countries that were there with us in Afghanistan, which you can kind of know. With all the flags were out there, we were just the last ones that were there. Yeah. Which makes sense. Like anything else, like we're usually the ones leading the fight in any and everything that we do. But we were the last ones there. If you can see, like on the, whatever report there was, but like outside the embassy there was a strip of flags where everybody that was present, all of their flags were outside. And slowly over time, as one country left, they left, and we were just the last ones there. Ultimately, what it came down to, and so, so, they were there. They were offering
support.
So
let me ask you this. I mean, this question here, because Republican or Democratic, whatever. The deal is that people, and I'm not a Republican, but people feared Trump, and I'm not, being president.
Yeah.
Other third world countries didn't want to F with this guy because they knew that he was on his shit.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take away that ego thing from Trump. He was a badass man. People feared him in that sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we got Biden in office, and Biden has to step up to the plate and say, hey, no fear. We're going to handle this shit. If we have to send troops over there, we'll send troops. We'll take their guys, put them in a safer environment, train them, send them back to their country, and let them do their thing.
Well, I have to disagree on that. I have to disagree on Trump, because Trump made a bunch of comments about if anybody shoots any weapons at our troops, and I think it was in Iraq, that he would go after them and retaliate. And they did. They shot up our camp, our base. I mean, they showed the footage, 60 Minutes showed the footage where they fucking bombed the shit out of us, and we didn't do anything. We didn't do a fucking thing. So fuck Trump. I just hate to say it, but I'm saying it. He don't come at me and don't. I didn't fear the dude. The guy didn't pull the trigger when he should have pulled the trigger. To me, for him not pulling the trigger on that really pissed me off. Because we had our troops, and he said, if you do anything to our troops, we're gonna come at you with a ball of fire. We're gonna do. He didn't do a fucking thing. Fuck Trump.
Hell no.
Right.
Yeah.
That was my feeling on it when I saw 60 Minutes, and they said, hey, did they really bomb? And they bombed the shit out of our guys. They bombed our quarters. Good thing we moved our guys under bunkers. But they literally bombed where the guys were sleeping,
right?
And their living quarters, and nobody did anything about it. I mean, am I wrong?
No.
Well,
you're right.
Yeah. Well, let me debunk that right now. Is that there ain't no way in hell we're taking indirect fire and we are not firing back. I'm gonna let you know right now, Chief. There's no way we're waiting for Commander-in-Chief clearance. If anybody's firing at us, you can guarantee we got counterfire measures coming back. You don't need Commander-in-Chief clearance to fire back and retaliate at that level. The only time you're needing Commander-in-Chief, anytime we're waking him up for clearance or something like that, we're dropping nukes, right? Like that's high level authority for stuff like that. All of like counterfire or stuff like that, that's done at general level and below. And there's not a single general or anybody that I would ever met in my life that ain't ripping rounds back after somebody had indirect fire. We've got so many different technologies now. We can pinpoint exactly those rounds came in at, and we're going after them with everything that we got. I mean, there's just no way that that goes down and we don't retaliate. We're waiting on a commander-in-chief clearance, because he doesn't give clearance for that. He's giving clearance for something like that. That's like, man, we out here bringing in GBU-34, we're bringing a couple 1,000-pound bombs for something like that. But for stuff like that we're taking indirect fire, we're ripping those things right back. We don't need clearance for those type of things.
I'm sure you guys are. I mean, behind enemy lines, right? I mean,
100%. I mean, especially with stuff like that. In terms of Trump, I mean, I think Trump had a lot of things to improve on, but when his international policy was actually pretty phenomenal. I mean, people really did fear the United States, right? And at the international level, you need that level of reputation. Where I think he failed was at home. His domestic policies were tough. I mean, he just said a lot of things that were emotional based that really just ruined what he was doing. But I mean, the things that he did was phenomenal. I mean, we opened up conversation with North Korea. Absolutely insane. No president has ever done that. No president's ever shook that man's hand. That's crazy. And as much people don't like Trump for doing that stuff, that in itself, that created peace for at least, 48 years. We had an open line of communication there with him, whether or not you felt like, same thing with Russia, right? Whether or not you thought that he was a puppet for Russia, blah, blah, blah. Regardless, there was a relationship that was there, an open level of communication that was never there before. Nobody's ever been able to do that. And so, call it what you want, keep your friends closer and keep your enemies closer. You can make an argument for both sides, but in terms of his international policy, I thought he did a phenomenal job. It's what he did at home, in my opinion, is what really tarnished his reputation. And the things he'd say, that it was just, is where I believe he needed some help on. But if he would just, in my opinion, just kept his mouth shut, he would have been a phenomenal president.
I agree.
The things that he said were just, or
childish.
Just, in my opinion, just a little too emotional. I think he voiced too many things, and people can make the argument that he's not a politician. It's not a politician way. But look, you don't have to be a politician to know you can't say certain things. Like,
right.
I know I'm not gonna be a politician to know you can't say that. Was like Rosie O'Donnell's like a fat pig or something like that. Like you don't gotta be a politician. That's not just saying that's a politician behavior. Not saying no. That's just like a gentleman or any sort of like honorable person. You don't operate that way. You can't say things like that if you're in a position of power where you think that's an okay thing to say. Right? Those are the things that, in my opinion, really were a detriment to a lot of the great things that he did, because he did some phenomenal things. Across the board. I just wish that some of the things that he said were just, he just kind of kept to himself. Someone just took his Twitter away from him.
Yeah. Well, I said that long ago.
I think more than Twitter, they need to take away from that guy.
Yeah.
That guy. I'm not for Trump, but I'm gonna tell you, like I said, international, like you said, balls out to him. He had the balls to stand up for this nation. I do give him props on that, but that's where I draw the line at for him. That's it.
Yeah,
that's where I draw the line.
I always said the same thing. If he would just shut up, he would be fine. I'm a Republican. But I couldn't vote for the guy only because of his of what he did and how he carried himself. I mean, he wasn't a politician, but the thing is that like Dustin said, you know what's wrong and what's right when you're an adult. You don't do that. You don't say those. You don't make fun of people. You don't say these things. And it blew me away how a lot of people still bought into that and still thought it was okay. I remember one thing vaguely that I remember is, when he was elected, I seen a tweet. It was on Facebook. It wasn't a tweet. It was on Facebook. It said, "Get ready to go back 300 years because Trump is coming." And it did. Racism was back in full swing with this guy. So many things went back in time where I thought we were never going to go back to. And this guy brought it up with the Proud Boys, and he just went off the rocker, man. And he was a good old boy, man, in the Good Old Boy Network. And it don't go like that here no more.
And what I was pissed off about too was my wife and I. We were sitting down watching when they raided the White House.
There's another. It just goes on and on.
That's just pathetic. Because he encouraged those fucking people to do that. You know what I'm saying? He encouraged them to do that.
But here's the thing. I mean, I think that's I think it's a terrible thing that they did, right, across the board. But if he makes comments like to drink, Tide Pods and people are doing it, hey, Chief, that's on you. You're a grown man. If you're making these dumb decisions, and you're like, well, the president told me to. Like, I don't buy that. I don't buy that. Like, if you're like, the president encouraged it. Oh God, get out of here. You're a grown.
I don't know,
you're
Dustin.
a grown man.
I don't know, Dustin. I disagree with that, man, because he has a
No
very
way.
high influential.
He does.
He's that high influential person. He's the president of the United States,
Oh,
the
my
chief,
God.
the commander in chief.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So he has that take on people. You know what I'm saying? When you go to the principal's office, you're going to listen to the principal. He's the principal. He's the commander in chief.
but that's but you're commander in chief of a civilian? No.
I don't know, man. I don't know,
No,
dude.
you're a grown man. If you're a grown man and you're sitting here and be like, well, the ex-president told me I should raid here, and so I should be okay with this. No, get out of here. You're an adult. You're a grown ass man. You make your own decisions in this life. This is the land of the free. So if you think that that's okay, you're wild to me. I can't buy it. You're an adult. You're an adult, and the actions that you make and you take, hey, that's on you, Chief. I just don't think that that's a valid excuse to me. I really don't.
I mean, it's even though he had that influential motivation to people, when you
and I
when
agree.
You're representing this nation. You're stepping on other lands, other countries.
There's dumb people in America across the board.
I agree.
It's not just the Trump thing. It's not just, it's a Democrat thing, because the first video I pull up right now, I could just put Biden supporters, dumb. And it's going to be the same things. It's going to be like, do you believe that the government should not be able to take your money? Yes, I do. And it's going to be all Republican-based concepts. And they're going to be like, hell yeah. Do you know that, Biden did this? Overseas, that Biden was shaking hands with, North Korea? Heck yeah, that's my guy. Like, they're going to say the same dumb things.
Yeah.
Like, that's everything I just described is Trump. He did these things.
You're probably right. But I'll tell you what.
So,
The people, I was just blown away how close it was. And that's okay, because it's a point of view. It's my point of view. And like I said, I'm a Republican. Unfortunately, I would never vote for that man. That's just my opinion.
That's the beauty. That's the beauty of this country, right? That you have the right to that ability to pick which one that you want.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not, at the end of the day, the people decide who it is, right? And that's the beautiful thing about this country. That's unlike any other country where you don't even get to have a fair trial. You don't get to have a fair vote. And so, that's the beauty of the country.
Yeah, well, one of the great things that I'm excited about is I know Dustin's been talking politics. So I can't wait to see after he kicks butt with his companies and he does his thing. We'll see if he jumps in there. He might be a mayor of LA one day, Flip. Might be a mayor of LA.
We'll keep eyes on him. We'll keep eyes on him.
No doubt.
So,
this is the first podcast here.
I can't, hey, you're welcome to come on anytime, man. We'll have you. Believe me, I'm going to have you on the show again. We'll talk more politics and stuff. So, I'll definitely have you on the show again. But people at home, tune in. We got a great show coming next Monday. I've got Dorchin. We're gonna air at 6 Pacific Standard Time, 9 Eastern Standard Time with live with Dorchin Lighthold. We also got director Rebecca Mendoza coming on with Clean Institute. She'll be on the show as well. We'll welcome her back. That will be Monday evening, next Monday, the 27th. Tune into that.
Give them a little bit of insight on Dorchin, because you didn't say what she does.
Dorchin is she's number one activist in the nation, first of all. She deals with domestic violence, sexual women's rights, sexual trafficking, human trafficking. So she deals with that stuff. Tune into that stuff. It's going to be a great one. We're going to go in through a couple of topics with her, how she started out and, her success, and probably I try to get into a case that I want to bring up with her. Her name was Linda White. Good case that I would like to bring up. But you guys tune into that, and we'll see you guys Friday open topic. Right, Brown?
Open topic. I think I'm going to get Dan Boyle on here. I'm going to talk to Dan this week. We're going to run him out, baby.
That'd be
We're going
good.
to run him out.
All
yes,
right,
sir.
Dustin, thank you for coming on to the show. We'll have you anytime. You're welcome to come on anytime, brother. I appreciate your input, your education, and your success, man. Thanks for having you. Brown?
Yep, thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, boys.
All right,
Hang
guys.
tight. Hang tight, Dustin.